Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. And my name is Zahara Wadud, and I am the student government president here at Richland College. We are here to talk about SB 11, or known as Campus Carry, and it has gone into effect since August 1st, 2017. We're here to provide you some information about what it means, what it stands for, the things like answer some questions, and have your questions answered as well. This is a very touchy subject, so I would advise you guys to be very civil about whatever is going to happen here. Okay. So here are some stats about campus carry. As you can see, Texas is the ninth state to allow guns on campus, behind Arkansas, Colorado, and the other states. Colorado has the longest history of campus carry, passing legislation in 2003. Colorado State University has no incidents, has no reports of any incidents or discharging a firearm on campus since 2003, but the University of Colorado in Boulder had one incident that was an accidental discharge at the dental school. So, you know. And here we have like a map of the states. They're color coded just to show the states that allow concealed carry by law. And then the blue states are the concealed carry guns allowed by law, but schools have limitations as to where you can have them on or not. And then the light blue ones are the bills introduced in 2017 to expand campus carry laws. This is a small chart just showing guns permit per capita by state, just to show, like, I know people think about Texas being really gun crazed and, that's where all the guns are, but apparently not, because Florida has a lot more than Texas does, and Tennessee and Washington State right above Texas. As you can see the numbers, the comparison is like a lot higher. And then these are just a few of the requirements to obtain a license to carry law, like for the permit, I'm sorry. And one of the most important ones are the fact that you have to be over 21 years of age, you have to have completed your training, and you cannot have any felony convictions to get your license. And then these are the demographics. So these are the demographics of Texas in 2015. These are the people who have the permit. It shows that most people who have the permit are over 40 years of age. And these are under 30 years. And these are from 30 to 39 years old. Okay, and if we break down the Richland demographics, it shows that most of the students here are from the age of 18 to 29, and then there's only like 9% of the students who are 40 and above. And then if you compare the Richland demographics and Texas demographics, this small light green chart right here are the people who might be carrying, who might have the license but are not carrying. Okay. Okay, and this is again a pie chart showing the conviction rates of LTC versus non-LTC holders. It shows that less than quarter of the people have been convicted of crimes of no wait just what I'm sorry. These are so this is the people, the most crimes are done by the people who don't carry or who don't have a license to carry, and it shows that these are the number of crimes done by people or convictions of people who carry a license to carry or who have the permit to carry. Okay, so now moving on to introductions, I'm gonna introduce Captain Mark Lozano, who is our DCCD police officer here located at Richland. Clap. And then we have Sergeant Barry Orton. And then we have Corporal Vincent Brooks, I'm sorry. And then we have Tracy Smith from Brewer and Lormand Attorneys at Law. And we have our very own government professor, Patrick Moore.
I know it is.
Okay, so how are you guys today?
Except that you can't hear me. We're great. Thanks. Okay, you can hear me now.
Are you guys excited?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay, cool.
Let's go.
So this, let me open the floor with Corporal Brooks. This question is for you. What is open carry? What is concealed carry? And what is campus carry? And what is there a difference between these three things?
Can you hear me? Okay. Open carry. Well, let's start with concealed. Concealed carry is basically the right that you have to carry your weapon on you in certain places. Concealed meaning no one can see it or no one knows that you have it on. Open carry is the same thing except you can carry it openly. You don't have to hide it where everyone can see that you are carrying. And campus carry is basically concealed carry, all right, but you can carry your weapon on campus, again, and only in certain areas.
Thank you, Corporal Brooks. But once again, what weapons are covered under the license to carry permit?
Only handguns. No long guns, no shotguns, no rifles, nothing like that. Only handguns. Only handguns.
Okay, well, thank you.
And excuse me, no knives or anything like that, right? Because those are covered under the normal concealed carry law, but they're not allowed under campus carry.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Tracy Smith, this one's for you. What is required for a person to be eligible for concealed carry?
Well, first of all, you have to be 21 years old at least, which obviously knocks out a lot of the college students from being eligible. You have to take some state-approved training, and you also have to pass the background check, which will knock you out of eligibility if you have a felony conviction. Some misdemeanor convictions will knock you out. If you have a couple of DUIs in the past 10 years, that shows you're a chemically dependent person to them, and so you're not eligible at that point. There are various other things like owing certain kinds of taxes and child support that can knock you out. So it's a whole slew of things to be eligible.
Thank you. Professor Moore, can students, faculty, or staff who have been previously charged with a violent offense or a mental health concerns be allowed to conceal carry?
If you've been charged with those things, you can carry. If you've been convicted, that's a difference. So if you have been convicted of a felony, then you're permanently barred, as I understand it. If you've been convicted of a Class A misdemeanor, I think it's the same thing. I think Class A misdemeanor, you're still permanently barred from carrying. If you have been adjudicated mentally incompetent, then you cannot get a license. And so the mental health concerns would be covered by that. But that only applies if you've been adjudicated mentally incompetent, not the other kinds of concerns. If you're just seeing a health professional for counseling or something like that, that does not disqualify you, as I understand it.
I believe the Class A and Class B misdemeanors knock you out for 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
And you only have to be charged. You only have to be charged for an offense that's a Class A or Class B misdemeanor, not necessarily convicted.
Okay. Thank you. I misunderstood that.
Okay, thank you.
If you've been charged, once your case is completed and you are acquitted or charges are dropped, then you would regain your rights, I assume?
I would venture to say yes. At the end of the day, is the state would decide, case by case basis of
Right.
of whether or not they can get a license or the severity of the offense or whatnot.
Okay, thank you. Captain Lozano, who on campus has the authority to know who is carrying?
Well, outside the police department, nobody else. License holders' information is not public, so only the police department would have the legal right to approach an individual and request they produce their license if they're a license holder.
Thank you. Sergeant Orton, will I be able to find out which students have concealed gun in my class, or can I ask a student about this information?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
Okay. Will I be able to find out which students have a concealed gun in my class, and will I be able to find out this information?
No, as a professor or another student, as Captain Lozano said, there'll be no way, because it's not public record, there'll be no way to find out unless you know those students individually, personally, and you have that information. Other than that, you won't ever have any information on who has a CHL or a license to carry.
Okay. Thank you. But once again, what is a no carry zone or exclusionary zone, and where are they located, and how can they be enforced, and how are they enforced?
Well, those are listed on the Dallas County Community College policy. You can go to your website. Also, we do have a handout here. Thank you, Kelly. They also have. Do they have the handout out here? They will. Okay, you will have the handout, but it's listed on there. There's athletic fields. There's labs. There's the fitness center. There's several buildings on campus which will be those no carry zones. And again, if you look at the district website or the handout that Kelly's going to give you later, it'll clearly indicate those no exclusionary zones to which you can't carry your weapon.
And can I add to that?
Yes.
In addition to the no carry zones that the school is able to designate with the state, as a license holder, it is your responsibility to know there are additional places that the campus does not have to notify you about that you are still unable to carry your weapon. For instance, polling places and things like that. So if they allow you to poll here, that's under federal law that you cannot bring a gun here. So that's in addition to the no carry zone. It's just something if you're going to carry a concealed weapon, you have to know those rules.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Corporal Brooks, what happens if someone violates the law?
Violates the law when as opposed to campus carry?
Uh-huh. Like shows the gun or something like that.
First of all, I would hope if someone saw it, they would actually call the police and let us know and let us take care of it. We would investigate, and then we would do whatever it took according to whatever that law was.
I believe it's if you are found to be violating the campus carry law, there's up to a year, I think, in jail and up to a fine of $4,000. But again, we would ask that we get called so that the police can handle it, and then let us do our job to determine whether or not that person has been found in violation.
Thank you. Sergeant Orton, will there be a safety training?
Yes, there will be. It is on the district website, again. There's a campus safety video along with the campus carry policy. And, of course, that training is going to be up to the individual to go to the website. It's very easy. In fact, before I came here, I went straight to the website. It's clear, campus carry safety policies and everything you need to know as far as being able to carry on campus. So that's going to be the training. Individual, we may offer some training later. Of course, faculty and staff, you have the campus safety video that is on the TOLI website. And so there is some training out there available for staff and personnel.
Okay, thank you. Tracy Smith, what responsibility does a concealed carry permit holder have to keep his or her weapon concealed?
Well, the law only makes it a violation if you intentionally or knowingly show your weapon. So if you're trying to intimidate somebody by lifting up your shirt to show your weapon, that's a violation of the law. Technically, accidents are not a violation. So if you raise your hand in class and you have a gun under your shirt and that shows it, technically it's not a violation. But when in doubt, I would say err on the side of caution. That's what I would tell you if you were my client. You don't want to raise eyebrows. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. You don't want to get reported to these guys and have them come ask you a bunch of questions, so just try to keep it concealed.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yes.
Do you know the answer? If someone is wearing a handgun and a tight sweater, and it's obvious that they have a gun under there, could that be considered a violation even though someone can't actually see the metal of the gun? Do you know the answer to that?
There's definitely a possibility, and that's why I would say err on the side of caution. Because this law is so new, we don't know how authorities are going to enforce it. We don't know how courts are going to decide these issues yet. So just be smart about it, and if you know you can see the weapon and outline of your clothing, I would say wear something else.
Do you have a question?
No, I was just going to add again, if when in doubt, the comment of when in doubt, call the police. Let us look into it. Let us be the ones that determine whether the person is or isn't armed, and whether or not the person is in violation of the law. We don't want you guys approaching anybody or asking anybody to produce their license or ask if they have a weapon. You know, that's why we are here on campus. We're readily accessible. And so we just ask that, you know, err on the side of caution and let us look into it instead of getting your hands dirty.
Thank you. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the previous question. Are permit holders violating the term of their permit if someone gets a glimpse of their weapon, Captain Lozano?
Well, again, you know, the operative word is intent or intentional. So if an individual is intentionally displaying their firearm, kind of like the example she gave where, you know, they're like, "Ooh, guess what? And I left my shirt to show you that I brought my gun." That's an intentional display. So that would be the key word. We would have to determine whether or not that individual was show their weapon with the intent to either just boast about it or to show off or to threaten somebody else.
Thank you. Once again, if someone can see a weapon outlined in a bag, is it still considered concealed, Captain Lozano? If someone can see a weapon outlined in the bag, is that still considered concealed?
Well, again, it's just that, you know, yeah, it's concealed, but you see something that looks like a gun. Again, you know, err on the side of caution and let us know. There's nothing wrong. I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with campus carry or guns, but we run into this very frequently. Is that a staff member is walking, going out to lunch, or walking out to their car, and they see somebody cutting the lock of a bicycle in the bike rack. First thing they do is they reason through it, and they say, well, they probably lost the key or the combination, so the only way they could get a hold of their bike is to cut the lock. They come back an hour later, and then they say, well, you know what? Actually, they could have been stealing it, so I should call the police. Well, this is an hour later. We can't do anything about it. So what we ask is something similar with the gun, something that's serious. If you see that somebody is imprinting or something that looks like a gun or a weapon or a firearm, then call the police and let us look into it. We'd rather show up and find out that it's nothing, or find out that the person, you know, didn't mean to do that, and then we can go on our with our business. But you know, it's one of those things that we're going to have to determine whether or not it was that person's intent to.
Thank
to display
you.
it.
So, Captain Lozano, once again, what should one do if they see a weapon on campus? What should one do if someone pulls out a handgun, either in a class or in a building?
Plain and simple, and I think I said it multiple times already. Call the police. Call the police. 972-860-4290 from your cell phones, or if you're on a campus phone, just dial the extension 4290 or 911, and you know, we'll show up. I can't emphasize enough. Just call us and let us do and look into it. And again, number is 972-860-4290. I recommend that you guys save it in your cell phone. Oh, I'm sorry. 860-4290. And Ms. Kelly will have a handout at the end. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak quick.
And I'm going to ask the same question to Patrick Moore.
So if someone in class were to...
Yeah, or in a building, to like just pull out a weapon or,
and they pull out a weapon, I would say the same thing.
Okay.
I would just say, I wouldn't recommend that you approach or question or do anything with that person. I would say just call the police. If you're in the middle of a class and you pull out your cell phone, that may get you in trouble with your teacher. But hopefully you'll be still doing the right thing and your teacher will understand that this was a different kind of a situation. So I would say call the police. Let them handle it.
Okay, thank you. And finally, for Tracy Smith, can a concealed carry holder participate during an active shooting situation, and what would be their liabilities?
Can they? There's a lot of gray area there. So Texas law allows you to use force that you believe is reasonably necessary to prevent harm to yourself or to prevent imminent commission of a murder. So if there's an active shooter situation, technically you can get involved. But as I said, there's a lot of gray area there. And anytime you choose to engage, if you're going to fire your weapon, you better make sure that the situation is how you're reading it. Anytime you fire a gun, you open yourself up to the potential for criminal prosecution or for civil lawsuits. So there's risk there. Additionally, there's no duty to help if you are a license holder, so you don't have to step
Allows
in
you
if there's
to
an active
use
shooter
force that you-
situation. So that's all for the person who holds the license to decide for themselves whether they want to step in or not.
Okay, thank you. And what are the liabilities? Like if they were to pull out the weapon and participate in the active shooting?
Well, first of all, let's say they misread the situation and they shoot another licensed carrier, right? You could potentially be prosecuted for murder. I mean, sky's the limit on what could happen depending on the circumstances. Civilly, you're talking the person's family could sue you and you'd be paying them for the rest of your life in civil damages. So anything can happen.
Yeah, if I may, going back to whether or not should a license to carry, get involved in an active shooter situation or assist the police, you shouldn't unless the clear present danger is right there, and you're trying to save your life or the life of others. Knowing that we have police officers on campus, you as a license to carry should resort to the training that you guys have gotten, or that constantly gets shared, which talks about run, hide, and fight. So your first reaction should be get away. If you can't get away, then find a safe place to hide. And then at the end, if you go to your last resort, which is fight, right? But let the police officers do their job. They have additional training. We have additional equipment. We have numbers, right? It's not just one. It's several of us that are going to show up. So we discourage involvement unless it's dire need. So like you said, this is not mandatory or required, but we definitely discourage it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this brings an end to our questions that we had prepared for you guys. I'm going to now open the floor to any questions from the audience. Feel free to ask any questions.
You asked one question about if somebody's concealed carrying in class. If a professor asks the whole class, is there anybody in here that is licensed to carry and carrying? Do you have to disclose that to the professor?
As a professor, I would never ask that question. If it were to happen, you are under no obligation to disclose that you're carrying, even if your professor asks.
If we're on campus, who do we have to present our license to? Just the police?
Just the police. That's it. And they could answer that question better than I could, but my answer is just the police.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the same. When you're driving, if you're licensed to carry, you're required by law, if encountered by the police or contacted by the police, to produce your license if you are currently carrying. So it's the same application here on campus. If we make contact with you or a license to carry holder, and they're currently carrying a weapon, they're required to show it to us. Outside of that, nobody is and it's not to carry holder's requirement to tell other faculty, staff, or admissions or anybody that you're a licensed to carry holder.
I would also add to that that as a school, if you implement policies that kind of intimidate students into trying to tell you, that could potentially be a violation on their part of the law, because they can't implement a policy that has the effect of prohibiting carrying your licensed weapon.
Thank you, everyone. Any other questions?
Yes. I'm sure, as all of our officers know, that the knife laws in Texas are subject to change come September 1st. Is the campus going to do anything to detail that law so there isn't any confusion for students who are going to try and come on campus with, say, like a Bowie knife or something like that? So.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
He said the knife law is subject to change. Are we going to do anything to change our practices on assuming that the knife law changes and a student might want to come on campus with a Bowie knife?
Well, I'll just be honest right now. It's probably something that I would have to go and discuss with my chain of command and administrators to figure out. But I think that there's other laws that would fill into that spot, like the prohibited weapon or prohibited weapon. So right, the weapons where places where weapons are prohibited. So, but yeah, I mean that's something that we're trying to learn as it's a new law that just came out recently. Yeah, so that's in Government Code 411-172. So you talked about anybody know about it?
I don't know. You've got several questions there that I'm not real sure on, but I can tell you that the Government Code 411.172 specifies exactly the requirements for you to be able to carry. It does discuss the mental health issue. What was the other one? You said something about child? Could not? Okay. I'm not familiar exactly with that. I would have to research it. And we are here on campus, so feel free to shoot me an email. And I will definitely get back with you. The same for the gentleman that asked on the weapons. That is fairly new, and so for the machetes and the swords and things like that, we're going to have to look further into that and certainly contact me. But license to carry, it's also on the Department of Public Safety website. And then, of course, Corporal Brooks is an instructor for that. I don't know if he can expand on it, but those are some good questions, and I'm just not real sure how to give you the correct answer. Legally, is there something within that mental health that you're aware of?
I'm not extremely familiar with what types of mental health background can knock you out of eligibility, to be quite honest. But DPS, I believe has some good resources on their website. And I may have misheard you, but I think you were talking about if you're on child support. No, it's certain situations where you have back unpaid child support, right? But I would consult DPS, and that the whole application process is laid out.
And the other thing that you mentioned about a new executive order expanding ability to carry, as I understand it, and we need to look into this a little more closely, I suppose, that is not going to have any impact on us here at Richland College. That federal law will not change the way the state law is implemented here at Richland, or that executive order, because I don't think that's effective yet.
Well, generally speaking, federal law can basically the state can't make laws that are in direct contravention with federal law. So if they make more restrictive laws through the federal process, then Texas can't go against that. It just all depends on what area of law it is and how many federal restrictions there are. If basically the federal government has declared that this is a federal area of law, then that affects how states can make their laws around that. So there's a lot of questions there.
And if I may add, whenever I teach the class, you have to send everything down to the Department of Public Safety, and they do a complete background check on you. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks before they get the information back to you. And those checks are done then. So whether it's child support, whether it's mental health issues, any of that, all that stuff is done down at Department of Public Safety. So even if a person applied for a license and they went through all the steps and they sent their last step, which is to send everything down to the state is the deciding factor, bottom line. And they will decide whether a person gets their license or not. They may hold them and they may want more documentation if there's an issue there. A person could appeal. It's just there's a number of issues. So it's not just because a person applies for it, because they go to class, they turn all the paperwork in, they could still get turned down by the state.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And because I'm a lawyer and lawyers like to talk, I just want to add one last point.
Lawyers don't like to talk any more than teachers, let me tell you.
I would just say, if anyone is concerned that this is going to create some sort of horde of students all carrying guns and you're afraid for your safety, I'm not here to take sides on the issue. There are arguments on both sides, but if you just look at the demographics and the number of license holders in general, you're talking about you're not even eligible to get this license until you're 21, so that knocks out a lot of college students. Right, 18 if military or police. And once you hit that age of 21, you're still looking at a very small number of people in that age range who are going and applying for these licenses. So you're talking about a relatively small number of people who are going to be having concealed weapons, at least legally.
I would add to that there, as was mentioned during the slideshow, there are a number of states that have a number of years of experience with these kinds of laws, and incidents are very rare. In 2014, I was reading a University of Idaho professor shot himself in the foot during class. About 6 weeks after this law took effect in September of 2016, a Tarleton State student accidentally fired his weapon in his dorm room. But those incidents are extremely rare, and I don't really think that this policy is going to have a significant impact on anybody's life here on campus.
If I could add, being an instructor, I've come across a lot of people, and what I found out is that normally people, when they apply for the class, they take the class, they're usually, normally now, supposed to be the law-abiding citizens, okay? And most of them have done some sort of research to where they know what the law states and what it does not state. So again, I would agree that with the attorney here, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, that I wouldn't worry, myself, I wouldn't worry too much about the concealed part of it, because even though people are eligible for the concealed carry, they will a lot of times not even apply for it, even though they're eligible. And then the people that are eligible, they'll get their license and they still won't carry. They may have it in their vehicle, but they won't carry it on their person. They're uncomfortable carrying it on their person or in their purse. But they will have it in their vehicles, and they want it just in case they feel the necessity to carry it. But 90% of the time, I've come across a lot of students who they won't carry it. But they're completely legal. and they just decided not to, but they decided to get the license just in case. So again, I wouldn't be too concerned about having all these guns on campus. Just do your due diligence about being safe for yourself and be responsible for your own safety. Sir? Oh, yes, sir, and to call us. My captain said to call us. Absolutely. Call us. Yes, sir.
How are y'all doing?
Good, sir.
What steps are y'all taking to prevent another North Lake situation? Is there any, obviously y'all have learned from the incident in North Lake, but what are y'all's 2 cents on so we can prevent from another North Lake?
I can take that one. I'm Barry Orton, emergency management, so I do a lot of the training for that. I have campus emergency response team members, which are faculty and staff. In fact, there's several in here. We try to do training at least once a month. I'm doing individual training with different buildings. Mr. Hinkle, the Collegiate High School, I do exercises with them. It's kind of run under the Texas Safe School Center, which is down in San Marcos. And we do 2 like shelter-in-place, lockdown exercises in the spring and then again in the fall. Evacuation-wise, we do a lot of training at least once a month or 10 a year that we do with the evacuations. There's other training right now, F5M training, which is training for faculty and staff. And of course, Corporal Brooks, I believe, talks to the school students out at the high school. But it has to do with the lockdowns, the evacuations, the first aid, and different things that we could end up doing in a situation if something should occur. So there's a lot of things out there, and again, it's one of those that if your individual department wants me to come in and train, we did library training, I've did LaCroix training, I've did training at Garland, and so it's something that I have through a PowerPoint, and then we can do kind of hands-on, which is what F5M is, emergency training that way. So there's a lot of different things we're doing, and that's been going on. I've been here since 2012, and I think even prior to that, some of these old-timers, not that they're old, but they've been around a lot longer than me, at least here on campus. They may know of some other training, but that's mainly what I'm doing through the police department, through the emergency management section.
Well, and that's on the side of training and personnel and whatnot. In addition to that, district-wide, we just, back in May, added 13 new officers. End of September, we're going to be picking up another 22. We're looking at adding more surveillance to all the campuses, improve our door access system. So we're outside training. We're also doing some improvements of adding surveillance, and more ways of being able to have eyes and ears, not just our faculty and staff and ERT members, but technology to help us have better monitoring of our campuses.
Thank you so much. Yes, Kelly.
Yes, so we hired, and when I say we, the district police department hired 13 officers back in May, and then there's going to be an additional 22 between September and November. It's spread around different campuses, as well as it's going to be a longer term project, but adding cameras, improving our door locking system. So several things. Our fire alarm system, which will separate buildings. So there's additional technological improvements that we're going to work on to be prepared. Yes, ma'am.
Since he brought up North Lake, I wasn't going to, but since he brought it up, if someone is a concealed permit holder and they have a weapon with them, and something happens and they choose not to react, and it's time to evacuate, how should they react to you? What should they say to you so that you know that they are not the hostile person? Because they have a gun on them.
Well, it shouldn't be. if it's concealed and they're evacuating, they should continue evacuating. And
Say, I have a weapon and I'm
no, unless we're coming in contact with you as a license holder, and then we're asking you about what happened or what not, then I would suggest then let us know. Hey, first before we move forward, I'm a license to carry holder, so that we are all on the same page. But if you're evacuating already, there's no point on stopping and like, hey, I'm out of the bunch. I'm a license holder. You know, just keep evacuating, and go with the flow.
Can I add one more thing to that? And that is, speaking of North Lake again, apart from the idea of the firearms and security and all that, we have an excellent mental health counseling facility here on campus. And so if you become aware of anybody who you believe to be in a highly agitated, perhaps dangerous state, then we have resources here on campus to help them before it gets to the point where they would actually shoot somebody. And so I would encourage all of us to be mindful of our friends and classmates, other people we run into on campus, and try to deal with those kinds of issues through our counseling center before it becomes something that has to be dealt with by the police.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, if I could add to that, to your question, Kelly, there are strict guidelines to what we are to teach as licensed to carry instructors. And one of the things we always stress is what to do when we need to present a license to someone, which is always basically just the police. And I always make sure I stress that. So people who have license to carry licenses, they know exactly what to do and who to present it to and when. You know what I mean? So when it comes to evacuating a building or anything like that, license to carry holders, they know there's no need to, hey, I have a license. I have a gun on me, I have a license. It's really only when you come in contact with police, for the most part, when you come in contact with police, and when you come in contact with them, then you are to let them know that you have a license to carry license, and whether you have one on you at that time or in close proximity or not.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Is Terry County, are they emulating the same process of what y'all just said? Are they taking steps as well? I know y'all don't speak for Terry County, but are they doing something similar to what y'all are doing?
Yeah, I couldn't speak for what they're doing or not, but there were certain requirements prior to the rollout of this bill that four-year colleges had to do back in 2016, and then junior colleges had to do for August 1st. So I'm pretty sure that they took proper measures, but I can't speak for them. I'm not sure what they have or haven't implemented.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
I was kind of looking forward to you presenting one of those scenarios that you had written down there, because I wanted to talk about it.
Okay.
Because it's something that I think might actually come up in real life among students. And it's the one where a licensed holder is sitting here at the subway with his or her gun in their backpack, and then says to their friend, I need to go to the bathroom, would you watch my pack for me for just a second? That seems like a very realistic possibility. And so I wanted for us to cover that so that everybody would have a chance of how to respond to that. And I have a whole lot of ideas. What would you say do you have any ideas about how to handle that?
Yeah, so my recommendation in that scenario would be, it may be a little uncomfortable to tell your friend, no, I don't think that's a good idea, but I think that's definitely what you should do for two reasons. It can affect legally your friend and you both. As the license holder, one of the requirements is that they keep the concealed gun on or about their person. So they really should be taking that bag to the bathroom with them. They should not leave it with anybody else. The potential repercussions for you are you know about the gun and you are now in possession of that bag. You don't have a license. You are now committing a crime. And while I think it's probably unlikely most of the time whether you would ever get caught, probably not worth the risk just to have your friend take the bag with them.
Yes.
No,
Trigger law.
yeah, no. I mean, yeah, that's an individual preference, but you know, I think that if you're licensed to carry, yeah, I just probably not.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions at all? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
I have a
go ahead.
question.
Yes.
What does a person do, and I think I know the answer to this, if they have a gun on campus, they are carrying on campus, but they have, for some reason, to go into an exclusion zone? What can they do with their gun? Is there a place on campus when they can leave it? What would the police say in a situation like that? If I were carrying and I had to go into the high school office, that's an exclusion zone. What can I do with my gun in that situation?
We will not have lockers on campus or any area where you can lock it. So you would have to go back to your car and secure it in your vehicle. But again, that's something that you're doing on your own accord, and if by any chance somebody knows that you're storing your weapon in the car, you're running the risk of somebody breaking in. So, but I mean that's an option.
Would that be in violation of campus carry?
To have your gun in your car?
Yeah, you have to go to the high speed and say, well, I'm going to go put it in my vehicle. It's not within close proximity.
Right. I don't think so. We have a lawyer on stage, but I think that if you leave your gun in your car and walk away, then it's no longer on or about your person, but it would be legally stored in your car.
Yeah,
Lawyer?
your car is an extension of your home, so it's basically like leaving it at home. So yeah, you're allowed to store it in.
I think that's right.
I believe so.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. This is not a gun-related question, but I feel like students deserve to know transparency. Any word on the recent began the first week of school about PNC
In the parking lot? No, we have received calls and we've investigated leads, but at this point, I mean, we're still trying to identify the individual, but no, I mean, no new developments. But I mean, the good thing is about it is that we're still getting calls on it. So again, sometimes when what the recommendation that we give is see something, say something, right? So when in doubt, call the police. If you see something or somebody that either looks suspicious or resembles someone that we broadcasted on, call us, let us look into it, and we always welcome the additional help. I mean, we rely on you guys, eyes and ears, to help us do our job. So yeah, but we're still looking into it, and we're still getting calls.
Yes.
I'm sorry, counselors, and what was the other one? Those are all exclusionary zones, and I would highly recommend that sheet that Kelly passed around. I believe that's on there. Some of the advisors I'm not sure about, but I know the counselors are on there. Discipline. Well, yeah, no, they can. Anyone can apply for a license to carry.
Yes, if they hold a license, they can carry as well.
Yeah.
But again, the application of the exclusionary zones apply to them. So if, you can't have a handgun in counseling. So if you work in counseling, you can't bring it.
Thank you. Any other question? One last question. Any other questions?
No, don't let that guy ask any questions. No, okay.
On this line, what is the rule going to be now in the state of Texas about carrying a knife longer than 2.5 inches in public view?
Yeah, so that's homework for us. Actually, it was already asked, so we're gonna do some homework on it and see how it.
September 1st?
Right.
Now, I believe the same exclusionary area can be set aside for knives also.
Yeah, well, there's other laws that are going to correlate or mix in there that might still regulate the carrying of knives in certain areas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank you guys so much for being here and answering our questions for us and carrying out any questions that we had. Is there anything you guys would like to add, like lastly, as a final note?
No, just on behalf of the police department, we appreciate you the extending the invitation to us. Any opportunity we have to speak with our college community, we always are willing to take it. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you for getting me out of the office for an afternoon.
We do try. So that kind of concludes our town hall discussion for today. The next one we have coming up is on September 12th in C140. It's going to be about Know Your Rights. It's going to be about the immigration ban and such. If you guys are interested, do check us out. We'll post them on our social media as well. Do follow us. And that's it. Thank you for being here.